Let's take a look back now, weekend rewind at what the Yankees ended up doing. And we always seem to focus on Aaron Judge. And Mike, he's now homered in 3 straight games. He has 54 long balls, 7 away from Roger Maris's number 61.
I mean, it's just so impressive to watch him. And it's not only, you know, the home runs. I think it's where the home runs are going. If you take a little deeper look on, especially I'd say the last week, I mean, it's a clinic of a guy having power where he can go pitches up and in to left field, down and away to center. He can even let the ball get deep, and it's kind of like inside, inner third. Well, we'll take a peek here. And he hits it to right. So let's just start here. A little bit of a hanger, but a lot of guys see it. Their eyes light up, and they tend to get a little bit ahead of themselves, and they hit a great ball foul. Keeps it fair, not trying to do too much. That's not a terrible play.
Right.
You know, it's a strike. It gets wide of the plate, but usually, all right, a guy makes a good swing and gets a base hit. Here, a little slider, a little bit down. There's not a park on the planet that can hold this guy. And I would just love to know, you know, I swung a 34, 32. Like, what would be the equivalent of that bat in Aaron Judge's hands? You know, what could I go down to, 26 ounces, you know? But it's just, we see fastballs in. You see sliders low and away. You see hangers right down the middle. Those are all timing pitches where if you're a split second off, not that you missed the home run, you might miss putting it in play hard.
Gotcha.
You know, and I think that's what he's doing so well, and it's so impressive at a point where the Yankees offense isn't giving him a lot of, you know, backing up. And I don't know, Dan, I look at it as when down the stretch, if you got games that you need to win, I circle 2 guys, they're not beating me. So I think it's going to be huge. Whoever hits behind Aaron Judge, they have a lot of pressure. When they were going good, it was Rizzo, and it was when Matt Carpenter was on fire. Mm-hmm. Now they're kind of playing, you know, I think it's kind of like the bullpen by committee. Whoever's hot at the time, let's put that bat behind Judge because he's just so much better than everyone else. Pretty soon, he's just going to get 4.
Mike, what do you think the percentage of effort level he is swinging the bat around? Because to me, it looks like he's not even swinging the bat 50%.
I mean, I think it's 90. It doesn't look 90 at all. You know, it's balanced. His head is very balanced. His body, and by the way, guys that are that tall, it's almost like there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot more margin of error, and for him to be able to keep everything so compact and so comfortable is what makes it so impressive.
It reminds me of Ernie Els, the golfer.
Yeah, he's bored. He looks like he's bored.
Yeah, right. I mean, and Ernie would hit that driver, man. It's just so they call him Big Easy for a reason. Just quickly here, and you mentioned that you say Judge isn't going to beat you, but it's easier said than done to actually pitch around a guy. Especially we saw Aaron Boone put him in the leadoff spot here, but he's not out there just swinging for the fences. So. And he's capitalizing on mistakes as well, Dan.
Yeah, he's not chasing. That's the thing that blows me away. When you're this good, I would think you have a tendency to expand when you have nobody behind you that's hitting. Getting Rizzo back, guys, I think will help. When he got this epidural shot last week, he should be back in the lineup probably tomorrow. But Mike's right. I mean, if you go into a series, Fran, you just don't want this guy to beat you. But we live in a game that there's not many pitchers that have command of the strike zone.
Right.
So you can tell a guy to pitch around somebody, but they don't have the greatest command to pitch around them at all. Look at how many mistakes in Mike's rip there of his home runs. Look how many of those mistake pitches. Like, they're not trying to make mistake pitches. They're just making mistake pitches.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and 7 away, I think, with 4 weeks.
That'd be pretty cool.
And I think if there's one player in the game who can handle the pressure that's going to come with all that, this guy plays in New York. This guy's a superstar. He's got
a slow heartbeat.
Bingo. So it'll be fun to watch. Meanwhile, speaking of guys who are amazing and fun to watch, there was this guy, Shohei Ohtani, Dan. So Saturday, 8 innings, he struck out 5. The guy's 11-8. That's a 2.58 ERA.
And he added a sinker for this start. Like, he just said, okay, now I'm going to add a sinker. And it was a mid-90 sinker, and then he hits 2 home runs.
He hits 2 home runs Monday. He's got 32 on the year.
I don't know what to say about this guy at all. I mean, you could really legitimately make a pretty compelling argument. If the Yankees don't win, you can make a pretty compelling argument he should be the MVP.
If they don't win what, the division? Or like, what do you mean?
Yeah, if they have the most historic collapse in the history of the game, and they don't win the division, it pretty much falls into that category.
Okay.
That you could make a compelling argument, but then if he does win, you might as well just rename the award. Because he's going to pretty much do this every year, Mike, where he's on the mound dominating and he's on the plate dominating unless he gets hurt.
Well, that's the point I was thinking. If you are an MVP voter and you have that vote and you voted last year because he does something no one else does,
you got to do it again.
Do you go away from your game plan? Because he can win it basically if he's healthy and does this type of stuff. And I don't even think he's got to be a 2.58. If he's around a low 3 and he's hitting 30 home runs a year, he technically is going to do something no one has done for the next 6-7 years. Does he win 8 in a row?
Right. Well, what's interesting too, because the offensive numbers are down a little bit, but the pitching
is better. Yeah. So which one do you pick? Like, he's an above-average guy.
He's just the unicorn.
Yeah,
he defines unicorn in the game of baseball.
What happens at this time next year, Dan, when that contract's up?
They should have already traded in this past trading deadline.
Because Angels fans don't want to hear that.
I got you. I say this all the time. You can avoid reality all you want. You just can't avoid the reality of avoiding reality, the consequences of it. And the clock's ticking now. And,
right.
you know, they've got a ton for Soto because they traded him so far away from his walk year. The longer you wait, the less you get. And it's hard having 2 players on your club. He's going to probably be asking for $45 to $50 million a year for 10 years.
Yeah.
And you got Mike's contract, too. It's hard.
I will say this for Aaron Judge, I think, because he is doing something that's historic. And then also, too, he's the best player on that team. I mean, no doubt. And he's put the team on his back all year long. And his numbers are, offensive numbers are, they're not really good. They're great this year.
And to that point, you take Aaron Judge off the Yankees this year, they might be in 3rd or 4th place.
Yeah.
You take Ohtani off the Angels, they're probably still in 4th place.
Right.
You know, so I struggle with that. I don't really like the division, but the true value, like, he's carried the Yankees when a lot of guys have gotten hurt, have been inconsistent. Like, you got to give credit to that.
Look at what you have to do to beat Ohtani to win the MVP.
Yeah. I mean, because like you said, he's
a historic season, and we're like, maybe he outdoes Ohtani.
Meanwhile, Dylan Cease, want to talk about aces here for the White Sox. Dylan Cease is quietly continuing to have a career season. He was 1 out away from a no-hitter on Saturday. Luis Ariz got the base hit through 8 2/3, but Cease still went ahead and got the shutout there. And so, you know, Dan, look, obviously Justin Verlander is in all likelihood the leader in the clubhouse, but Verlander now in the IL might miss a start or 2 here. And Cease just kind of keeps plugging along. You
know, that bottom stat there, Mike, I always look at that, opponent's batting average. That tells me everything I want to know. Like, this guy's really hard to hit. And honestly, it's another guy like DeGrom. It's really a 2-pitch guy. In a game where a lot of the other starters that are elite, they're throwing 4 or 5 pitches at you. They've mastered so much. This guy's coming at you with really 2 pitches. He's unique in the sense that I think he's really hard to rhythm up because his delivery has some timing mechanism in it for a hitter. I would think it'd be really hard to sync him up. And you know, what I've really been blown away, guys, is durability. You know, because that's unique, the way he throws a baseball, and he's been very durable this year.
Yeah, I would say he kind of throws out of his ear, which I think adds to the deception. And if the voting was today, yes, Verlander wins. But if Verlander misses 3-4 starts, and now Dylan Cease has 5 more starts, 20-plus more innings than Verlander, let's say he dominates and he kind of narrows that gap a little in the ERA, I wouldn't be surprised because, like you said, Dan, one of the big abilities that I like to measure is durability. Because if you're great for 110 games as a position player, that means someone vastly inferior to you is playing 52 games.
Yep.
So I give a lot of credit to the guy that plays the 140, 145. From the pitching standpoint, Dylan Cease had 32 starts last year. He's got 27 already. Like, he's on pace to...
He's a horse.
He is. He's going to do the same thing. So if Verlander ends up with 26 versus a 32 and he's got 30-something plus innings, I think there has to be value in that because it's not fair to take it away from someone else.
Yeah, no, it's a serious conversation, serious vote at that point. Meanwhile, speaking of pitching and aces, I mean, what Zach Gallen is doing, Dan, in Arizona is unbelievable. And his last start went to 7 more scoreless innings. So he's gone 6 consecutive starts where he had 6 or more scoreless innings. The streak now is 41 2/3 scoreless innings here. And the franchise record, Brandon Webb had a 42. Yeah, the streak actually, incidentally, it's 41 1/3, not 41 2/3, because he had 34 1/3 coming in to his last start, and he pitched 7 scoreless innings there. Nevertheless, I mean, it's a ton of innings where nobody can hit him.
He's an ace. He really has developed an ace. Great deal for both teams. You know, Chisholm's been great down in Florida. He's added to what, and these guys truly have an ace on a really young, exciting team. They've got so many good things going on right now in Arizona. And this guy kind of sneaks up on you, Mike, because in an era where all we think about is velocity, this guy throws hard, but he's a pitcher. He really commands the strike zone. He has a real understanding that his job is to interrupt the hitter's timing and dominate the strike zone any way he can, and he's doing that.
Yeah, and it's not just, like you said, Dan, a 97, 98. I mean, we get enamored. I get it. More guys throw 100 than ever before. But you have to be able to command the strike zone.
Right.
And I think he's done a great job. And as a whole, I give the Diamondbacks organization a lot of credit. They're in a tough division with the Dodgers and all these teams, you know, the Padres being the guys that love to spend and have made the biggest splash. They're 4 games under 500. Right. They got rid of some good players at the deadline as well. So these young guys are getting their opportunity. And it might turn around quicker than people think in Arizona.
You know that board we just had off? He reminds me of Greinke. I mean, I think he's got that kind of feel to manipulate a baseball the way Zach does. And I think he studies the game that way. If he stays healthy, which he's had some health issues, I think he's got a chance to be a legitimate impact starting pitcher for them year in and year out.
And that board, I mean, we throw a lot of numbers at people, but that board is pretty remarkable.
Hard to do.
So in the modern era, you've got Greinke, Hershiser, Drysdale, all Dodgers, by the way, that had 6 consecutive starts, or 6 or more scoreless innings pitched. I mean, and then Gallen, that's it. Like that's, I mean, obviously the year Orel had in 1988 was, I mean, tremendous and off the charts, and I mean Greinke as well.
Well, I'm glad we're giving him some love because, you know, you get lost in that market when you're not winning. And again, I think the job Mike Hazen has done this year with everything he's gone through personally, as a husband and a father, what he's done leading that organization and transitioning this team into a new, without totally rebuilding the whole thing, I think he deserves all the credit in the world.
Yeah, he met Mike Hazen, a very difficult year from him. He lost his wife to the battle of breast cancer. Arizona, by the way, 18-10 in their last 28 games. That whole strength of schedule argument, all this team
Forget it.
Playoffs.
You get guys hot, man.
You got to be careful.
All when you play them.
Got to be very careful about that.